Hey YouTubers, I mean Media Arts Oneers. Today I'm going to show you how you can change your drawings to an official vector polished logo that you could actually use for a company. To start, I'm going to open Inkscape and I'm going to bring in the drawings that I actually made and work right on top of them. It'll be really helpful to see your drawing right underneath what you're working on, because if your drawing is good enough, you could actually make something very close to it on the computer. In order to do that, I need to go to File and Import. On my desktop, I have the drawing that I made. You took a picture of your drawing to send it to me anyways. So if I hit Open from File, it's just going to be a picture file. Let's see what happens. Okay. Looking at this, right, if I zoom in, I'm holding Control and scrolling my mouse, you can see this is not a vector. It's still just my drawing. But it will serve as a template that I can trace on top of. One of the most useful tools you can use if you have a flat graphic is the Bezier curves tool. Here, this is like the pen tool in Illustrator. And what I'm going to do is trace over the shape here. So my plan is to draw this bigger paw shape, and then I'll create the claws back on top. So I don't have to be exacting in this part. If I click and then click and drag, I make a line. If I hit enter, I can end it, and you can see the segment that I created. If I pick back up where I left off, okay, if it wants to draw its own line, sometimes I have to enter and then pick back up. Click and drag till I match the curve that I have in my drawing. Let go, enter. And here, as I come back around, I don't have to be as exacting because, again, this is going to be covered by the claw pieces. See a little bit of the palm there, so. And I have to connect back to where I started in order to make it a shape. Since I closed my shape, you can see my light line here. I can give it a fill and a stroke to match kind of my vision. So over here, if you don't have this tab, again, you have to go up here to Object, Fill and Stroke, and that will open up this panel. But first, the stroke is, again, the outside line. I want it to remain black. So right now you see it's all the way up black. It's a solid fill. Stroke style, this changes the width of it. I'm going to try 0.03 inches. And you can see it made it a little thicker. As far as the fill, I can pick a color down here, or just say solid fill. Pick a brownish color. That'll work for now. And you can see that's my shape that I traced. If I move that off to the side for now, I can trace my claws right here and add them back on top. So using the same tool, click and hold, do the best that I can to create this claw. Okay, now that I have my shapes traced, I have all of the claws, and I selected a color down here to give them a fill. They still have that same black stroke. The only thing is I don't like how this one is behind this one in this way. I want this one to be on top. So if I go to Object, you see the shortcuts for raise and lower in this program are page up and page down. So if I go on that one and I press the page down button on my computer, I can reorder these so that they sit how they should, like that. Using my selection tool, I'm going to hold shift and select all 4 claws, and I can just group them together. Control and G, or just click the group button, and they can move all as one object now. If I do that, I can add them over here, put them roughly where they go on my bear claw. Okay, now looking at this compared to my drawing, I do want to add back in some of these details. So if I come over here, I like these kind of parts where the point of the claw is going to be a slightly different color. So for that to happen, I can go back in here and draw a shape that I'll bring back on top. As you can see here, I went from drawing to something close to a finished product. However, I think looking at it right, you always have to be critical of your own work. I think I could simplify this logo down to even just be a flat shape. So I'll have to try one like that and see what it looks like. So if I just grab this whole thing, copy and paste it, you can always copy and paste what you have if you want to try like another version. So for instance, I think I have to ungroup this. Let me see what it would look like if it was pretty much all one color. I could even go in and unite all the shapes so they actually are all one thing. Let me try one with less detail. Okay. Maybe you'd still be able to tell it's a bear claw. It's kind of hard to say. I feel like this logo is kind of begging to be put in a circle. I could even put text here with the company name and put the logo in the center. If you want to perfectly align things, like let's say I want to put this circle inside of this circle, right? I used the circle tool. I held control to get a perfect circle when I dragged it out. But there's a way where you can actually, using alignment, tell it to perfectly center both circles with each other. If I go here to Object, Align and Distribute, this menu pops up here, and what we want to do is align the circles both horizontally and vertically. So if I hover over these, they'll tell you what they do. You want this one center on a vertical axis. Okay, see how it moved ever so slightly? And then this one center on a horizontal axis. Now I know that this circle is perfectly centered with the other circle. Finally starting to like how this logo's going. I have a picture, but I obviously need some words. So what I did, I made a copy of this center circle and brought it over here. I can use this to wrap my words around and then bring it back on here, right? So remember how before we typed out our text and we used the object to wrap it around, right? I got a font that I like. I'm going to select my text and my object, text, put on path, and then I should be able to rotate this to get the text on top. Oop, gotta move the whole thing. With a little bit of fine tuning, you can see how this is a pretty powerful software. We went from a loose drawing to like more of a finished product. I did the text on a circle, text on a path in order to shape it around a circular logo. In here, same thing on the bottom, just drew a line here that I use to wrap the text on. I tried one here too where there was a filter and there's all these different textures you can use. You got to be kind of limiting with that. So I tried one that looked like bark, which is kind of cool with the rugged footwear feel. However, some of those, if I really zoom in, they might be rasterized and not truly a vector graphic. So something to think about. You can see this part is vector, but it might have rasterized the bark portion. So this is one way of making a logo. I basically used a couple things in combination. I used the Bezier line tool to draw shapes. I used a little bit of text on a path to make a finished looking product. There's a few other techniques that we can get into as well. I want to show you one last technique we can use, which is pretty cool. I think you're going to like this. What we can do, we can take a bitmap image, meaning a picture file, and we can turn it into a vector graphic. So if I go to import again, and I'm going to choose a file that I had. I found this picture of a barefoot online. It's actually from a costume, but I think it might make a nice trace. If I zoom in, you can see it's blurry. It's made out of pixels right now, but it is a high quality image. However, if I go to path up top and trace bitmap, click this button that says live preview, and it will give you an idea of what this trace will look like. The computer is finding dark areas and light areas and tracing around them and changing them into shapes instead of pixels. So it's looking at a group of dark pixels and drawing a line around it, and it's going to be a brightness cutoff here. You also have options to do color. So if I click that, it might take a little longer. Have a little patience on your computer with that. By changing this threshold, right, I can change how dark or light it is. I could even just get the black shape of the barefoot if I wanted, just the silhouette with the furry edges, right? If I go the other way, maybe I just want the claws. If I go back into my project, I'm going to move the claw out of the way, and you can see what I'm left with here. It's a perfect vector graphic now. You can try this as many times as you like. You can change the color. Maybe I want a brownish paw, and then I can put the claws back on top, and then I have something that I could use as a logo. I could envelope distort some text in here, and that could be the basis for a logo. Just to show you what a quick logo could look like based on the image trace, right? You need something more than just the image trace. You have to do something creative with it. A lot of logos typically have an image and words with them. together. Sometimes logos are just an image, sometimes they're just words, right? I could do something just creative with text. I could do something just with this circle and this foot, or put the two things together and I make a logo that has an image and a picture put together. That part's up to you, but it has to look like a finished product in the end, right? So a couple different techniques I showed you here on how to make logos, especially the Bezier line tool, very important for drawing shapes, or the shape tool. You also have text and all of the ways to manipulate that. And now the last thing I introduced was the image trace, right? If you go to path, trace bitmap, you have a lot of options as far as borrowing pieces of a actual bitmap image.